Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Talking with Tech podcast. My name is Chris Bouguet, and I'm not here with my co-host, Rachel Madel. We have a great episode for you today. We wanted to let you know what this episode is all about. This is a webinar we put together right when we knew the pandemic was starting. Mei-Ling Chan reached out to Rachel and I, and we collaborated on putting together a webinar for people who we knew would be trapped in their homes or would be quarantined in their homes. And we wanted to come up with as many strategies and real practical stuff that people could do to help promote the use of AAC and to become the best communication partner you could possibly be. And also give advice to clinicians who would be supporting families who would not necessarily be seeing people face to face, maybe for some time. So we put together this webinar. It is called An Hour by Hour Guide to Implementing AAC at Home. And you can follow along if you'd like. It's bit.ly/AAC hour by hour. We have strongly felt, and we continue to feel here at the podcast, that the content should be free. Hence why the webinar that we recorded is now a podcast episode that you're about to listen to. And we also felt like the slide deck that goes along with this webinar, you could follow along, and which is why we just provided the URL, bit.ly/AAC hour by hour. We did say that if you wanted CEUs, then you would have to pay for those. And that is if you want to go and sign up at exceptionaled.com, you can find this webinar. And then you can sign up. It's $5, and you can answer the comprehension questions there, and you can earn your CEUs. So the CEUs are something we have to charge for, but the content is free and will always continue to be free. Note that we do have some bonus content, not for this particular webinar, but just in general over at our Patreon. So if that's something you're interested in, I know that Rachel and I and others have been working to collaborate about, okay, what other content can we put together to help people? And we also didn't want to just rush out and throw content at people. We wanted to make sure what we were providing might really be practical and helpful. And that's what we're hoping this webinar does. So without further ado, enjoy an hour by hour guide to implementing AAC at home. And again, that URL is bit.ly/AAC hour by hour. Stay safe, everybody, and remember, we're all in this together. Hi, everybody.
Oh, look at them all coming on in. I'm excited.
Where do you see them coming in?
I see participants. See the little participants?
Oh, yeah.
Like 10,
Sorry.
18, 20. Everyone's hopping on with us. Let's open the chat up.
Hey guys, we definitely want you chatting it up, especially when we're doing social distancing here. I know I can use some human contact. So make sure that you go to the chat box. So you just move your mouse around, find that, it kind of floats up, and then change that little drop down arrow to all panelists and attendees so everybody can see what you're sharing. And why don't we start out with, where's everybody from tonight?
I love how Chris added his to the chat as if he's not a panelist. Oh.
All right, well, let's get this party started, shall we? We only have an hour, and we've got a lot of stuff to talk about. It does look like, also in the chat, could you put what your job title is? Some people have already done that by saying SLP, or maybe you don't have a job. Maybe you're here as a parent. What's your role here today? And what hat are you wearing primarily?
I love it. A lot of SLPs and AT and AAC specialists. Parent, I love it.
Great, Megan. We're going to just talk to Megan because this is really
We're only talking to you, Megan.
cool.
Oh, SLP grad student. Love that, Sarah.
All right, what I'm going to do is share my screen right now so that you can see the slide deck. And we'll talk a little bit about the how this was all designed. But the first thing that wait a second, Rachel, is this the right presentation? I thought we were doing how to build a leprechaun trap. I thought that's what this course was.
That's tomorrow.
Yeah, you need to build the leprechaun trap tonight because they come tonight. So that you said it so that they, okay, so I guess it's not that. That's a whole different presentation. This presentation is an hour by hour guide to implementing AAC at home. And while we vamp for a second, this is your moment where we explain that how this all came about. There's the hyperlink, bit.ly AAC hour by hour. There's the QR code. This is the digital handout. It is all built through Google Slides. We can add to it and fix it. And if you make suggestions throughout the course of this webinar, we can go back and add to it. For instance, I'm going to put a link to all of the different leprechaun traps I've ever made. Got videos for all of them.
I'm really interested in that portion of this.
Yes, I can't profess to be a great leprechaun trap maker because I've never actually caught a leprechaun, but still, all my schematics are out there. All my videos are out there on how to do that. So, Rachel, can you talk us through a little bit about how this all came about?
Yeah. So obviously, we're all kind of stuck at home being quarantined, trying to figure out how we can support the clients that we work with. Some of you guys are parents and you're trying to figure out, like, what am I going to do to help support my child? And so Chris and I frantically this weekend pulled together this presentation, really crowdsourcing a lot of resources. So there's tons of links in here. Definitely, this digital handout is so great that it's digital because there's just, you'll see as we go through the presentation, there's just a ton of links to great resources. But we wanted to really take a day and we wanted to show you how you could implement AAC from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. An entire day of AAC. So we're going to go through routines, activities, ideas, share tools and resources. And yeah, I'm really excited. It was really fun to put together, actually.
It was all day, Saturday and Sunday, putting this slide deck together and grabbing resources, but well worth it. I'm really pleased how it turned out. I hope everyone else is as well. Okay, Rachel, I'm going to ask you to monitor the chat because when you're driving, it's I can't see it necessarily. I mean, I can click on it, but
yep,
I'd rather you
I got
just...
it.
All right, cool. So last second here, chat-wise, did you all get the link? It's bit.ly AAC hour by hour. So make sure you have that and save it. Take a picture of it right now. Is everyone saying yes? Yeah, Chris, we got it. Yeah, good. Can we move on?
Right. Resounding, yeah.
Excellent. All right, here we go. If people come in late, we'll just post it, Mei Ling. Every once in a while, you just drop that in the chat, bit.ly AAC hour by hour. All right, this is a course for where you can earn CEUs. Is that right, Mei Ling? Again, another thumbs up there. Yes. So there is some obligatory things we have to do to get out of the way. We have to tell you who we are, and we have to go through our disclosures. So, Rachel?
I'm Rachel Madel. I am a speech language pathologist and Chris's co-host on Talking with Tech, which is our podcast. Give us a yes if you're a podcast listener. I have some disclosures to go through. You can go to the next slide, Chris. Oh, wow. I'm loving this chat, guys. We got a lot of listeners. So I'm the owner of a private practice in Los Angeles. I have a blog where we sell online resources and create videos, video content, and lots of other content for parents and clinicians. I do receive advertising revenue from Talking with Tech, our podcast. I also receive income from Exceptional Ed, where we do CEU courses. And then there are my non-financial disclosures. I'm a member of ASHA SIG 12, which is the AAC Special Interest Group, and a member of CASHA, which is California Speech and Hearing Association. And I do some app consulting.
And I am Chris Bouguet. I am also a speech language pathologist. The day job is actually my official job title that I get paid for is assistive technology specialist, but I like to think of myself as an inclusive design facilitator, putting the design before the technology. I was the author of an app called AT Eval to Go, put out with Smarty Ears, so I make some money when people download that app. Now it's on the hiatus, but I was the host of the AT Tipscast podcast, and I did receive revenue from sponsors for that podcast. But that's on the back burner right now because I'm focusing my work with Rachel doing the Talking with Tech podcast, where I have all the same disclosures that Rachel just said, where sometimes we get sponsors and we get paid for them. The same thing with Exceptional Ed. I am also the author of The New Assistive Tech, Make Learning Awesome for All, which is published by the International Society for Technology and Education. So I make money on the sale of that book. And I'm also the co-author of the Practical and Fun Guide to Assistive Technology in Public Schools. So I make money when you buy that book too. That came out in 2010, so it's a little bit older. So all my disclosures are actually listed on financial and non-financial I don't think, and anything that we say here, we'll mention it if we have to disclose something throughout the course, but I don't think there's anything in this presentation that we really need to disclose. We're not selling any products here. We're all talking about how to design a day. And occasionally there will be a product or two that we might mention, but we will mention specifically if we're getting sponsored by that particular company. So you can get my disclosures there as well. First things first, let's dive in here. So right now in the world, there is a lot of resources being shared. There are a lot of educators, speech language pathologists, assistive technology people, and others that are sharing resources, and they are flying by at a lightning pace. So our first advice to both parents and clinicians and anyone else that's participating right now is that you need to adopt some sort of digital curation tool. When you're on Facebook and this great thing just popped up, where are you saving that? When you're on Twitter and this great resources shared, where are you saving that? When you're in this awesome webinar where all these resources are tagged, that URL that started out just 5 minutes ago, where are you saving that so that you can go find it later? We could do a whole webinar on each one of these different tools, but our advice to you, kicking this whole thing off, is to pick one, adopt it, learn it, spend some time there. Forget about AAC. Just learn how to curate resources off the web when you find digital tools. Rachel and I will each maybe share what we like to use. I will start off that I'm a Google Keep person. Many years ago, I adopted Google Keep as my platform for keeping my own information, but I have also used Digo in the past. So both of those are sort of my go-to. What about you, Rachel? What do you use?
I actually really like Evernote because I love that there's a Google Chrome extension where you can just click something. I also am a big fan of Google, so I use Google Keep as well. But I think that the key here is just finding something that works for you, right? Because there's a lot of stuff out there, but what works for you? What's the most efficient? What do you enjoy going to and looking at? Trello is another one that you could potentially use. Sometimes that's used for workflows, but it's also really great for stuff like this. So just find a system and stick with that system.
All right. Second is that we would suggest that families, and it sounds like most people in the participating in this webinar are consultants or coaches or someone who's going to be helping families. We feel like once you've adopted a digital curation tool, your next thing to do is actually, as a family, make a massive to-do list. I know in my own personal family, I have 2 children. That's what we did. We got together as like a unit and we said, what kind of stuff do we want to get done in the next 4, 6, 8 weeks, however long this extended break lasts? Let's not spend it just watching Netflix and then a week from now, all of us be frustrated with each other, and let's have some specific goals that we want to accomplish. Very similar to having an IEP goal. What's our family goal for the next week, 2, 3 weeks? So just some of them are, hey, did you know that it's our sink is a mess? Underneath the sink is where we keep all of the plastic bags that get shoved in there, you know? And if you go look under the bathroom sinks, you know, there's all spilled all over everywhere. Can we just organize under the sinks? Or I think most families around the country are not that atypical from mine, in that we probably have 1 or 2 junk drawers, or you just kind of throw everything in there, and that's where the needles and buttons and staplers and all the other stuff just goes, and pens, and that's the time to dump those out. And the idea here is to make sort of a list of just stuff you want to get done. Those are just some examples. Did you, Rachel, did you have the similar thought?
I do, and I love to-do lists, mostly because I get to check them off after they're done. But what's great about this is, you know, we're really going to try to teach you that language can be incorporated no matter what the activity. So all of these activities, you can start modeling on a device. You can pick some core words to target. It's really great because you can, you know, feel efficient, right? You're cleaning out the junk drawer, but you can take things out. You can put things in. You can clean things off. There's all different types of language models that you can use for everyday activities.
I also feel like the majority of these on this sample list, but again, what you're thinking through, are not necessarily huge projects. Like, we're going to paint the whole house. Well, no, we're probably not going to paint the house. It's simple things that you can do And even if you don't get them all done in let's say an hour chunk of time, you could break them up into small chunks. We're just going to do one drawer today, and that'll probably take us 15 minutes. We're going to dump out, it says clean cars, right? All right, we're just going to wash the outside of the car when it gets warmer, or we're going to vacuum the car. That takes 10 minutes, but it doesn't mean you have to clean the entire car in that whole span. These are meant to be broken up into chunks, thinking that many of the students and families that we'll be working with, an hour might be too long to be thinking about how to do everything. It might be having to think about smaller chunks. And then third things third, and then we'll get into kind of the schedule of the day, is to have that family meeting that I was talking about. We're going to sit together and you're going to create that list together. This is not one of those things where mom sits down, mom makes the list, and then says, all right, family, this is what we're doing today. There's no greater way to turn people off than giving them orders.
And I was just going to add to that. I think that something that is really important whenever you're doing something with a child is that, you make them part of the process. So I would recommend, having them color on it if they can color, or write in what they're supposed to or what they want to do, because it can be a really collaborative process, and that allows for more buy-in.
Rachel, I could not agree more. Even if the student is not yet currently writing in letters, okay, can you draw a picture of a car next to the clean cars on the list? Because together we sat around and generated this list together. Now we all own it. We all feel like we have to do this, and then we can refer to it, because remember our family plan? We said we were going to do these things every day. As time moves on, you'll have that as something to reference. The last thing here is those tasks that we're putting up are not fake tasks, meaning they are truly authentic things that need to get done, or that need to be done to help other people. That is way more motivating to kids, just in general, than making them do something. Just think about how motivating it was to write that 500-word essay that you were going to go give to your teacher that's going to throw it out, right? That is a fake assignment. It doesn't mean anything to people. You're doing it just to do it because you are a good student. So how can we think through the day through the lens of, well, what is really meaningful and what could really make an impact and help others, even if the others are just your own family members?
And then, of course, we want to talk about what's happening, right? Because I think oftentimes, schedules are disrupted, and we don't even think like, wow, I should have a conversation about what's happening, and this is a perfect opportunity to model feeling words. I put some of the ones that I thought might be relevant: sick, tired, scared, anxious, bored. I think that, we oftentimes forget to model these feeling words to kids. And especially these ones, I think that it's typically like, oh, you're mad or you're sad. But I think that this is a really great opportunity to have a genuine conversation about what's going on, why the schedule has changed, and really validating the feelings that kids are having about this. I put some amazing resources here. They're all clickable links. Of course, let's talk about cleaning our devices and washing our hands, which is so important now. Teaching kids how to properly wash their hands for a certain amount of time. That wash your hands is a link to a bunch of songs that you can teach to children to make sure that they're washing their hands for at least 20 seconds. I love Brain Pop has a really amazing resource there specific to COVID-19. And then my favorite thing is this practical AAC resource. Chris, can you pull this up for us so we can see it?
I can. I think I have it up right here already.
If you guys haven't seen this, it's just quite amazing. Scroll down a little bit, Chris, so you can see that it's all different types of visual supports to help with washing hands. What is coronavirus, social narratives, social stories. I mean, it's just like there's videos, there's so much stuff here, which I just love and I think could be really useful for a variety of different cases that we're working on to help further this conversation and talk to, children about what's going on.
Did you see the AJR video? Have you heard of AJR? It's a band. And they just put out one that they have a song called, I think it's called Bang or something like that. And they made a hand washing video, like a parody video of their song. Oh, it's great. You got to Google that. AJR. So just to make it clear for all this, the people that are participating here, now or who are going to be watching this in the future, what this whole webinar is really about is about how communication partners can model on the AAC device. We're not going to spend a lot of time on it. There's a resource there where you can listen to Jill Center and Matt Bod, two researchers / clinicians that have developed an acronym called SMORES. That's a link to a podcast episode where we interviewed them, and they talk you through this idea that the communication partner pushes the buttons or points to the pictures while saying the words or while the words are said out loud. But it's really meant that the communication partner is using the tool more than the person, the AAC user. This is called modeling. It's called aided language stimulation. It's called aided language input. But it's the idea that we are using the tool more than they are. Anything else to say about that, Rachel?
Well, I want to talk about who can model, and that's everyone. So we oftentimes, feel nervous. I think parents sometimes feel nervous about modeling on the device, even speech language pathologists. We all need to show, and I love incorporating everyone into the mix. That's friends that, might be over, of course, maybe not now, but siblings, of course, are the best models, which I think the next slide, Chris, is going to go into a little bit more detail about siblings. But, we know that peers are better communication partners for kids, right? They're way more motivating to talk with peers and siblings than, us adults. So incorporate siblings into the mix, and they can help model language too. So it's a great activity for the whole family.
It really is. And I don't think I have anything to add to that. Just everyone can do it who's in the family. Whether you're in the same room or whether you're distance participating as well. If you're going to do FaceTime with grandma, they could have a low-tech version and they could show it, especially as we look to these video conferencing platforms. There's lots of opportunities there for family members to really be the ones who are doing the modeling. But Rachel, when you're modeling, what should you model?
Let's talk a little bit about core words, which I feel like a lot of people in this webinar probably already know, but 80% of what you or I say are core words. So they include various parts of speech, verbs, adjectives, prepositions, pronouns, and we need to consider them as a huge part of the modeling that we're doing every day with kids, because we know that 80% of what they need to build sentences and to learn language is core words. And so a lot of this presentation, we're going to be going through core word ideas, core word phrases that you can be modeling throughout the day. They're very general, which is really great because it means we can use them all day long.
And you'll see on slides is coming up with the different activities that we've outlined. We've come up with many different short phrases using core words that we've highlighted them on the different activities so that it can maybe take some of the guesswork out of it for parents. They can just look at what we have written there and use those words. So here's the general idea for the schedule is that in a typical classroom or in a school day, we might invite teachers to think about 1 or 2 core words and plan those for a week, right? And so the thought would be, all right, during my daily schedule, how many times could I introduce this core word and expose a student to it throughout the course of the day? Can I get to 100 exposures? Can I get to 200 exposures where I have modeled the use of that core word for the student? And the way we ask them to kind of plan that through is to really just outline their day. They come up with some sort of schedule, and most teachers have this schedule throughout the course of the day. You see from 8 to 8:30, we do some sort of morning circle, 8:30 to 9, science, 9 to 9:30, literacy, and you move through your day that way. But then there's just to think through it and say, okay, well, what kind of stuff would I say during morning circle where I might say the target word? And this particular example, the word is put. And so you can see, here's how you might model put throughout these different activities. And so that's the same idea that we think that would work for parents and for families when they're home with their kids. So what we did is we built out a schedule for the day, and what you're going to see on the next slide is a template that is a larger version of this screen. This is just kind of a zoomed in portion to the first part of the template where we asked the parents to think about, okay, when, what, who, and how. So what's the time of the day? What's going to be happening during that day? Who's going to be participating in this thing that's going to happen during this time? And then how? what exactly will the routine be, or what will the activity be that is happening during this time? How will I say or model those core words during these activities? So you'll see here, it just has, this is a morning routine. So you're waking up, where you might say, wake up, get up, I am up, use the toilet, and so forth. And then down here, you'll see the next thing is, all right, maybe when we're done with our morning routine of eating breakfast and getting dressed, the next part of our day is going to be sort of an art activity. And then these are some possible words that you could practice as you're playing with the art, in this case, Play-Doh.
And I think that this is where, if you're coaching a parent via telepractice, like, this is like the meat and potatoes of what you're going to be doing, right? Figuring out the schedule with them, and then you giving them the targets, right? Giving them the vocabulary that they could use. So it's like, okay, well, we're going to have art time. It's like, okay, let's brainstorm together some words that we can target, some phrases that we can target based on your specific, child skill level and language level. And, working through this with families, I think is going to be a lot of what we can do as providers to help with telepractice, because unfortunately we're not going to be able to spend all day, right? But we can help parents plan out the day so that we can ensure there's lots of language targets happening.
I really see what you just said. I can really see that as an activity with a parent. We're going to open up this link. You'll see the link from the slide forces you to make a copy, so it appears in your Google Drive or your Google account, and then it makes this Google Doc for you. You'll see that it's listed over here by days: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You could put, okay, family, what's important to you right now? Some core words that we might work on this week. Let's put them here. And then let's walk through your day. What's going to happen at 8 o'clock? You know what? We really get up at 6. I don't know about your family. All right, let's just change this and make it 6. And then we're usually bed earlier than that. So, okay, well, you can make adjustments based on the particular needs of the family. And then you'll just see as you scroll down that it's the same thing, same template every day, allowing you to fill in those activities. Rachel, how are we doing with the chat? Anyone have any questions about this?
We're good. We're about hitting the halfway point through this. So let's go to the schedule.
So what we've done on the next ensuing slides are some ideas of what you might do at the 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and so on time slots. Again, with the idea that you can adjust based on family's needs. So morning routine, everyone wakes up usually in the morning. When you wake up, here are some things you might model on the AAC. And it doesn't have to be as long as we have here. They're just meant to be examples. So you could just model the word up, right? But you might model, you are up, right? Where you model on the device, you might model you might model up, but you might say the word are.
And I think it's worth mentioning too, to parents especially listening, you don't have to model all the words. So I can say you are up and only model up. So we don't have to, if we're only modeling up, we don't just say up, right? We say what we would normally say, you got up, but then we would model just the single word. And we would base that on, where our child's skill level was language-wise. But you don't have to say all the words on the device. I think sometimes that's something that I coach a lot of my parents on. I'm like, no, we don't have to say like 4 words. We can just say the one word, but we can just keep our speech natural and engaging.
Absolutely. So then the next thing, I think what most people do, I know what I do. As soon as I get up, I go use the toilet. So let's talk about that. That's a routine that you do. I know certain families I've worked with in the past have absolutely needed that coaching exactly. Like, well, he doesn't really need to go to the bathroom when he gets up. Yeah, he does. She does. So we get through the routine of going to the toilet, and then these are other words that can be modeled there. Again, maybe if you don't have a high-tech system, or you might have a low-tech board that's just sitting there right next to the toilet that you could use during those moments. And then maybe after the toilet, you go wash your hands. I skipped that here. We skipped that in this particular slide, but that could be another routine that you have. And then you go to have breakfast in the kitchen, and these are all sorts of different phrases, short phrases you could model. Again, 1 or 2 words. The 9 o'clock time frame, we specifically thought about going right into some sort of math activity. Now, I know that might sound weird, like, well, but isn't there, like, the earlier we said art. Again, families are going to determine what would work best for them. But one of the reasons we specifically wanted to put math earlier in the day is that there's some research from Daniel Pink, who is an author out there. He recently wrote a book called When, and he talks about how you want to do more analytical tasks in the morning. The biology says we are better at analytical tasks in the morning, and in the afternoon, we want to do more creative tasks. So that's why we stuck math here in the morning, is doing some sort of fun with numbers sort of activity. And this includes like going around the house and finding all the coins. Let's pull the seat cushions up, and are there coins buried here in the couch? Oh my gosh, I found a quarter, that kind of stuff. I think many families might have a coin jar. And then I know when Rachel and I were brainstorming this, she's like, yeah, let's dump those suckers out and disinfect them. Let's talk about washing the coins.
It's a perfect learning opportunity to talk about cleaning.
And then things around the house that you might want to measure. If you're going to be hanging pictures, if you're going to maybe this is a perfect time we move our bedroom around. Will it fit over here? Let's measure certain things. All sorts of just fun little activities with numbers. And that is just some very basic, our coins, money, coins, and...
One other one that I have is pretend store, right? Like having your child go around and buy things and having money and, either pretend money or real money as a way to work with numbers is something that I've recommended to some of my clients too.
Something that also is number driven, but a lot of times is not thought of as numbers, is building. So if you have blocks and Legos and anything you can construct with, those are great times to count and to add and put more and use those sorts of quantitative concepts that you can experience. And that's very hands-on, manipulative for people and fun to build something together. Sometimes you could have some sort of model or a picture that you're working towards, and you count, how many more do we need? Those are great activities for kids and usually super engaging. And then for the digital side of that, Minecraft is a great and very engaging tool for many kids, where you are building something, but in a digital space. And you are often counting the blocks and saying, I need one more, I need to take one away. And you can do some very fun things with Minecraft where you can do spelling words. It doesn't have to be all about math. So imagine spelling out words like this, or over here it says the word make, You can make different things in Minecraft, like characters. In this case, it's you read a story about Pearl Harbor. And so now let's build the USS Arizona in Minecraft. Super fun stuff. How big should it be? How many blocks do we need? All sorts of fun, engaging stuff for kids. And then, of course, if anyone's listened to the podcast, they know that one of our big things is coding. There are really fun, engaging, and this code.org has Star Wars, Minecraft, Frozen characters that take you step by step through activities where, again, you are practicing core words. So in this activity down here, you see you've got Rey from Star Wars saying that BB-8, we need this scrap metal down here. Can you go over and get that scrap metal? And so what you have to do is drag these blocks over, and then you hit a start button, and that'll drive BB-8 to go over and get those. Perfect for core language because you can see up, down, left, right, move. They're all built right there, and it's fun. And by the way, code.org, these particular activities do not need an account. You don't have to worry about privacy. It's just all right there on the without having to create anything. And then the other thing there is maybe for some siblings or communication partners, Scratch is something they might already be doing in school, and actually AAC users as well. They might be already playing with Scratch. So, hey, could one of our challenges be, one of our tasks be to make things in Scratch that teach core vocabulary words? Can we tell a story about go or stop or washing our hands or something like that? And then we'll put that out there for the world to then consume.
Speech Blubs is an app that helps kids make sounds, then words, and then sentences with just 10 to 15 minutes of practice a day. The app has more than 1,500 fun activities for toddlers, preschoolers, and anyone with speech delays. Speech Blubs was designed by speech therapists, parents, and kids too. Video models using actual kids are a big part of its main methodology. Video modeling is an evidence-based practice supported by copious amounts of research to help kids learn language. The embedded videos in the app show kids speaking. The app then invites them to imitate the video model.
Parents know that hearing their child finally say mommy, either with their voice or AAC, is a true milestone. SpeechBlubs has more than 1 million downloads, proving that the app could be a great starting point. The subscription starts as low as $4.99 a month for the annual plan, which is a nominal investment to improve a child's speech and language abilities. Anyone can try the app for free for 7 days, but as a listener of this podcast, SpeechBlubs is providing an extended trial for an entire month. Simply go to bit.ly/TWT SpeechBlubs and complete the form to receive an extended trial. Also, if you're a Talking with Tech Patreon member before April 2nd, 2020, you will receive a free lifetime membership to SpeechBlubs. Go to patreon.com/talkingwithtech to sign up.
And check out speechblubs.com for more information about using this engaging and empowering app. That's speechblubs.com. Check it out today.
So let's talk about, Chris, actually someone from the chat is asking if you could put the captions back on. Because when you exited, they left.
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
So we need to go shopping, right? Because we need food, but not all at once, like I did this morning. But there's a perfect opportunity to talk about language. Of course, not necessarily taking kids to the store because at this time it's not a good idea. Only having one person, go to the store for the household, I think makes more sense. But you can do online shopping. You can talk about the things that you want to buy. I also wanted to mention before I forget, it popped into my head, Chris, as you were talking about coding, and the schedule. Involve kids in the process because you can figure out what they're interested in, right? Like if you pull up the coding website and they perk up, you found something that's motivating and exciting. There's tons and tons of options here and lots of ideas. And so we really need to see what kids are interested in. And that way we can, really find things that are motivating so that they're more interested and engaged in what we're doing.
One thing I wanted to mention about this shopping in particular is this notion of using stuff that's going to go bad first. In the event that you can't get out to the store and groceries become a little bit harder and more challenging, it might be a good idea to look at those expiration dates and say, do I eat this first or do I eat this first? And that would also tie into that sort of math or calendar activities, all with the idea that you're practicing temporal concepts. And also understanding that hey, this thing that's been buried in the back of the fridge, let's move it to the front of the fridge so that we can eat this first. Those are, I think, are really good practical strategies for kids.
Okay, it's 10 a.m. It's time to move. We might have been sitting for a while. So kids yoga is so fun. I do this in a lot of my sessions. This video, if you click on that kids yoga, it goes to a video. There's a ton of kids yoga videos, but it's a great opportunity for core words. Go, up, down, turn. You're getting kids moving. I also put Simon Says, which is a really fun way to both, model language, but also it's really great for following directions. So you can do some receptive language building. I love, working on commenting. So saying yikes or whoops. If, I didn't say Simon Says, it's a really great opportunity to model that kind of language. And then for a child who maybe has some mobility issues, I wanted to include something for them. I Spy is a really great activity that you can use, in your house, just, picking a category, working on phrases like I see or look. You can target where or on. I love find, and for kids who are building literacy and, a little bit older, you can say, find something that starts with the letter P or the sound B. So there's lots of different ways that you can incorporate that. And definitely check out those links because they're some really good resources. Okay, let's also talk about meal prep, right? Because we're all, most of us are going to the grocery store and then we're having to cook a lot of meals because we can't go out to restaurants. So, this is a perfect opportunity to engage children, right? And also, it's kind of like the task that you're doing every day. You can be made into language activities. So, getting all the containers out that you're going to use and sorting them, right? Working on size concepts, talking about opening them and closing them. For bowls, of course, like putting things out of bowls, taking things out. Same thing with packages. If you're, you can always have a child help to open a package before you're about to cut something up. Of course, talking about hot and cold. Someone actually mentioned the Toka Store app. Linda mentioned this app. I love the Toka apps. I put Toka Kitchen too, because that is such a fun app to work on. Cutting and cooking, and there's tons and tons of core words that you can use with that app. So meal prep is a really good time to embed language opportunities.
Before we move on, I want to mention that I think that what we're talking here with meal prep too is that you might be preparing dinner and you're like, well, 11 o'clock meal prep. Well, because the idea is that maybe you're preparing lunch, but maybe you're actually doing some prep that's going to be happening later on because you're cooking it, so it's going to take longer. And then this also means, and I know some families are doing this, they're saying, well, I'm going to prepare maybe my week or my next 2 days. So what are we going to eat on these days? Again, integrating back into the calendar that we talked earlier. What do we eat tomorrow? And modeling those words and then putting them in the containers and things. So plus it's super fun.
Yeah. And also thinking about those time concepts, it's so great to just have for kids to have a calendar, that visual. I think that saying things like yesterday and tomorrow, we need to lock that and anchor that into something meaningful to a child. And we have to have that visual to really teach that concept. But that could be as simple as just printing out a blank calendar and filling it in. But I think that visual is really important for those temporal concepts.
And if you don't have a printer, then draw a calendar. Right? All right. Speaking of food, it's lunchtime, right? So lunch can be a great place to practice core vocabulary or modeling in general. It's usually super motivating to eat together, and it's usually a social time when people gather around the table or wherever they in the kitchen to make food and to then eat it. But besides the food, there is the setup. So there's getting things out and then putting things away. So putting things on the table and then putting them in the dishwasher when you're done or in the sink and cleaning them. Rachel, I meant to test this, but I'm curious what the rest of everyone participating would be thinking about here. I believe Saran wrap over an iPad, you can still touch the screen, right? So that if things get dirty, it still works. Does anyone have that experience? I believe it does.
This is a hack that I'm real excited about if it's actually true. I didn't know about that. I use the not the smooth kind, press and seal. I use press and seal. So I don't think that would work. But Saran wrap, that's great. Also, it feels very clean and hygienic, which is a theme that I'm
perfect for painting too, foreshadowing what's coming up.
Yes.
But it helps you keep the devices clean and then you can just throw that out, All right. So, but don't sleep on lunch. Don't think that it's a break time. It is a great time to just model a few words during the setup, during the actual eating, and then the cleanup. And it's also great, again, to have kids. So often, many of the speech therapists are going to know this. It's a lot of people bang this drum of getting away from requesting and it only being requesting. This is a great time for kids to learn how to ask you questions. Do you want more, Mom? That sort of thing. Do you need a napkin? Do you need it? Of course, you have to model to teach them that, but then eventually back off and let them take over asking those questions. Okay, so you will not get through a podcast with Rachel and I if you listen to us without us usually talking about literacy at some point. So it's now lunchtime. The food has settled into our bellies. What do we do next? We go over to the couch. We maybe climb into bed. We come someplace and we snuggle up and we're going to read together. That reading is time where it's a nice connected opportunity to just maybe, again, a student not having any sort of demands placed on them. They're just there enjoying the story as their parent, sibling reads to them or reads with them. And there's a specific strategy you use when you're reading called the car. So it's not highlighted here so much on this, but that's why there's a car. Like, what does car have to do with shared reading? But if you look at the hidden text here, it says, comment on what you see in the picture, ask a child about what you see, and respond to something the child might see or do when they're looking at the picture. And that's sort of the hidden flavor that we want parents to do, or the hidden routine to become more conscious of, is that when you have this kind of picture book in front of you or any of these online tools, you could look at a picture, describe it, comment about it. Ooh, I like it. Ooh, that spider's scary. Not like, and then ask, do you like it. Every time I point to my hand, that means I'm modeling on my communication device. And then if the student like shies away, like, right, not like, or it's okay, something reassuring. But you see how that follows this model of comment, ask, and then respond. This link, by the way, Shared Reading, takes you to the resources by Karen Erickson and the crew out of North Carolina that just goes into more detail about the car, and then there's another strategy called crowd. We didn't get into that level of detail here, just simple comment, ask, respond. Now, we talked about shared reading, but another option for people is to do shared listening. Maybe, we've blocked out an hour from 1 to 2 to do shared listening. Maybe that's too much. Maybe it doesn't take that long. Maybe it's only 15 minutes. And then you flip over and there are lots of podcasts, whether this wouldn't necessarily be something visual, it's just auditory, but lots that have free stories. The Barefoot Books, Story Nori. Two of my favorites, just to tell you about, that I'm personal fans of, is Goodnight Stories for Rebel Girls. Those are short podcasts talking about all these probably women you haven't heard of but are awesome, that have made these huge impacts on the world, but you don't maybe necessarily know their names. And they're in some way, there's some sort of rebel. I know my daughter and I listen to them together. My son and I listen to them together. We're in the car. And then one of my all-time favorites is The Radio Adventures of Dr. Floyd, which kind of has an undertone of STEM, with also a little social studies built in there. But it's these kind of old-timey radio adventures of this Dr. Floyd and the trouble he gets into and how he gets out of them. So again, really super fun and engaging. And of course, the Elmo one there is all about tying back to the morning math activities. So Elmo, of course, is going to be for the younger grades and younger ages, but it's fun to hear Elmo talk about, and Sesame Street talk about money. These are characters that they already know.
The other thing I've done with listening and podcasts like these is you can actually create a story as you're listening. So it can be a creative activity with, paper and drawing or painting, or you could also do it digitally. And we'll talk a little bit about some tools that you guys can use. But it's really dynamic and can be, and really is great for that auditory input too, and strengthening that.
A strategy I failed to mention, but it's written there in the text, it works for video as well, which is to pause it. Just because you've started a story doesn't mean you have to listen to all 15 minutes of it at once, or even all 5 minutes for once. If something interesting happens, you can always pause it and then do that same thing. Let's comment on it. Oh no, stop. And then ask a question. What now? And then respond based on what the student's reaction is. Note it too, by the way, if you don't have internet access, the public libraries often have stuff that you can CDs and things. Of course, that is me going out to get them, but there are more places to get audio stories than just the internet. And of course, this is full disclosure here that Nightlight Stories is my favorite of all of these, and Nightlight Stories was written by my wife and I back in the day. We wrote over 60 stories, recorded them, put them out for free. So we did a story podcast for many years. And during this extended break, we're talking about, hey, can we put out some new stories? So stay tuned to that. We'll see if those come out. All free, by the way, not making any money off Nightlight Stories. Oh, man, I'm tired, Rachel.
Me too. It's time for a nap.
It is late here. I'm talking for a while. Yeah, everyone needs a break. The day at 2 o'clock, maybe between 2 or 3 o'clock, it's time to go do some alone time. That might mean rest. Mom and dad need to take a nap. Kids need to take a nap. Maybe we just close our eyes and rest our eyes. But it is totally okay. Everyone has permission to not try and model 24/7. I mean, the more modeling you can do, the better. But it's okay to just go in your own corners, in your own rooms, in your own parts of the house, and get away from each other and take a break.
I have to also say that some of our students, they like to stim. That's what a lot of people say. Oh, he's just stimming on the device. He's hitting all the buttons all the time. This is a great opportunity to just let a child sit in, his bed or wherever and just play on the device, right? Listen, hit the buttons, listen to the words. Children need these times to explore their devices and explore the words and touching the button and hearing the word. And so this is a really great time to just not have any type of, restrictions around it and just say it's your time. It's your time to do what you want. All right, it's time to get creative. After we've taken a little rest, now we can do something creative. It's the afternoon. We know that we're more creative in the afternoon, and so we can make something, and that is super fun for kids. There's lots of activities. I put here some of my favorite resources. Hands On as We Grow has some amazing. It shocks me, actually, the things that they think of. There's tons of sensory activity. Sensory Play for Kids is another great resource. These all have Facebook pages where you can, like their page and you'll see the new activities that they're posting. Oftentimes it's things that you typically have in your pantry, in your house, that you can just, pull out and start doing. And I love using Pinterest for this, especially because, Pinterest is a very visual medium and you're able to see all the different things. And what a great opportunity to say, what should we make today? It's art time. What should we make? We could make the butterfly, we could make the slime. And so I think it's really good to, of course, involve the child in that process because, we want to do something that they're excited about.
I know it's a little hard to see in that picture, but right down here at the bottom is a little tinfoil man made by whoever this kid is. I don't know who she might be. Hidden behind this mask.
Love it.
So another thing that is fun and creative to do is to actually make comic strips. I think this is one of the most widely underutilized tools, is to make comics. Again, kids can draw these on their own. Many students, again, with the risk of overgeneralizing, students with autism are sometimes very artistic and make characters. And so this is a time to lean into those skills. You can do that low-tech wise with crayons and pencil and paper, but you can also do it in a high-tech way with different apps and web-based tools. Two of my favorites are Toondoo and Storyboard That. You can tell that Rachel and I are both fans of comics and how we use our Bitmojis to illustrate, who's going to talk on which slide and to make them a little bit more fun. But there's lots of different ways you can use comics to get kids, again, because it's so visual, they can be talking about the scene, talking about the characters they're creating, talking about the positions that they're putting the characters in, talking about the environments that they're in. And when I say the kids are talking about them, of course, what I really mean is that we're modeling talking about them. One of those, so there's making the whole comic strip, right? But then there's also just generating a character. I don't know if you knew this, Rachel. I don't know if you saw this slide ahead of time, but I went in and I made you a peanut. That's you, Rachel, in peanut form.
That's me. Oh,
that's you.
I'm kind of cute.
In Peanutize Me, which again, most of these you don't need to create an account. So we know we don't have to worry about privacy or COPPA regulations or any of that kind of stuff. It's just go on there, no account necessarily, and create some sort of character. I'm a big fan of Hero Forge. That's where this one is made, and you create this kind of 3D character. But again, such fun ways to incorporate language because you're usually building someone's face or body or clothes that you're putting on and taking off, and it needs to be longer or shorter, or look at colors, And then you have some sort of product at the end that you can then share later on in the day.
So let's talk a little bit about video. We have a little less than 10 minutes left, so we're going to talk quickly. Here are a ton of really great ways to engage students. I love doing Puppet Master is one of my favorites. You can make a puppet show. You can put a kid's face in, make a puppet. Powtoons is really great. Let's go on to the next one, Chris. Let's see. Utilizing video. This is especially important now. Video chats. You can do peekaboo with a family member. You can do a puppet show over FaceTime. There's lots and lots of different ways that you can utilize videos. We know the power of video modeling for kids, just video recording them doing things throughout the day and then talking about what they did. Giving them the video recorder and having them take videos can all really be engaging.
Just to make you aware, if you're going to be watching videos, and I am giving everyone permission to watch videos right now. There'll be, especially as these weeks go on, people will be feeling guilty about the amount of screen time that kids are having. So if there's going to be that increase in screen time, let's make those videos something that's worth watching. One thing to mention is that these videos were made by a teacher and speech therapist talking about core vocabulary. So it's just videos that you can use to illustrate the words that you've been practicing all day or all week long. And then if you're going to watch the videos, turn the captions on. It's a great way to promote the literacy. Thank you for whoever did the reminder for me to turn the captions on down below here. Turn the captions on your videos on your iPad. There's an auto captioning feature where, if there's videos embedded, the iPad will automatically turn it on, so you don't have to turn it on each time. And you're constantly then seeing the sounds of the words being meshed with what the words actually look like. So great literacy skills there. And if you're not even using an iPad, if you're not using those, most people do have televisions. Just use this little part of your body, turn the captions on, and let's all watch captions. Watch our TV shows with captions on.
So let's talk a little bit about animated shorts. Just briefly, animated shorts are video cartoons that don't have words. So they're really great to model language. I love, love, love using Edpuzzle as a tool to collect these, and you can share them with families. Also can talk about augmented reality, which is the next slide. I love some of these really fun apps. You can see the merge cube. You can see Chris turning into, is that Superman? Who is that? What are you turning into over there?
I can't tell you. That's my secret identity. It's revealed.
And then I'm just seeing this for the first time. The next slide, the merge cube, is a cube that you could buy. I think you can buy it on Amazon. That is Chris's amazing wife, Melissa. And look, she's holding the sun, it looks like, in her hand.
Something about the merge cube real quick, Rachel, because you said you can buy it, but also we have a link here to print your own. So you can actually, if you do have a printer, this is one of those fun creative art activities. Print it out, let's cut it up, let's tape it together, and now you can make a paper-based cube that, again, when you hover the app over, it turns it into whatever it happens to be.
Let's talk about sharing, because we just made things, right? So now let's share them. This is a perfect opportunity for social communication. So of course, kids get really proud about their creations, no matter what they are. And, asking a child who they'd like to share it with. And this could be, send a text message to grandma. This could be writing an email if you're working on writing and literacy, sharing on social media, using words like, look, I did it, make it. The next slide has a lot of other really great ideas as far as sharing with others. The next two slides, actually. I love, love, love my story, which is on this slide. You can see that there's a picture of me there with some, we made some dialogue. So you can really use that app with a lot of different language levels, which is really great. You can make social stories on there. Just really, really important to share your work, right? Because it's an opportunity to communicate socially, and it makes children feel proud of the work that they did.
Two practical strategies. One, this is why these are listed here, is that, hey, we're going to help others, right? So some people need to know what we're making. You made this great comic strip, you made this great character, let's share that with the world. That's one. And then two is, on the sly, text your family members that you're going to be FaceTiming with later in the day, that you're going to be chatting with using these video tools. Say, hey, grandma, can you challenge him to write like 3 sentences today? Or can you challenge him to send you a picture of the stuff he's made? Because then we can say the whole next day, remember, grandma wants to see, grandma wants to see, grandma wants to see, so that you can show it later on.
I have so many ideas that I just want to spew off, but we don't have time, Chris. There's no time.
We got to go make our leprechaun trap.
All right. So we have, of course, predictable chart writing, which is really important for literacy. You can see those links. Chris, I think we just need to start going through some of the slides because we don't have a lot of time. It's dinner time. We kind of already went over dinner time. Pack up the leftovers, of course. Tons of language there. Let's keep going through our day so we can get to the end. Those end slides are my favorite. Chores are a great way to engage kids with language if you make them special helpers, right? So you can do tons of different things. I use the example for laundry because we all need to be washing things more frequently now. So there's lots of different language, opportunities there. Same thing with cleaning. Of course, you guys, that's the theme of this webinar, is that I want everyone to be clean. Everything and everyone.
I can't illustrate enough, and I cannot say it enough. This is a great opportunity to ask kids what chores need to get done, not, again, tell them what to do.
Okay, 7, it's game time, right? So you can do a traditional board game. There's tons and tons of board games. I'm sure everyone has these at their house. They're so great for, turn taking, using pronouns, which is really great. I love this from Gail Van Tatenhove. Playing Game Resources has some really great ideas. Of course, you can play digital games on apps. This is the time to really have fun with the family. I have here a link, Best Apps for Communication. You can see it on the right. Those are my absolute favorite apps that I use. It's like a 2-page downloadable PDF where you can click the link and it goes right to the Apple Store. So definitely check those out because those are the ones that I use the most in my practice. When we're thinking about apps, we want to make sure that adults are in charge of the device. So if we're trying to get communication, we really lose if we just put the device in front of a child and they start, hitting all the buttons. They're not interested in communicating with us. But if we hold the iPad and they direct our actions, we have so many language opportunities, to have them use core words and to help direct the actions of us on the screen. Of course, these are just some of the strategies that I use. Muting, we already talked about pausing, rewinding, watching things multiple times. Sometimes I'll give the phrase, use your words, not your hands, because kids, of course, want to touch the screen. Sometimes I'll have kids sit on their hands if they have a hard time with impulse regulation. But there's a lot of really great things that you can do with apps that help support communication.
So these are some non-app-based games that are just fun to play, and they're usually maybe laying around your house. And even if you don't have any games, you don't have a single board game, you don't have an app to play, you can always make your own games. This is just a simple file folder with circles drawn around quarters to make, and then you roll a dice or spin a spinner, which you can also make, and now you're playing a game. Right? So lots of activity for games. I'm going to skip this and get to bedtime.
Okay, so this is something, whenever I'm thinking about language opportunities and when I'm working with families, we need to pick routines that happen every single day, right? Because we know if they happen every day and we can integrate language into those already existing routines, that we're more likely to have favorable outcomes, right? Than something that's random that we only did once that week. So if we can integrate into regular existing routines, then we have more opportunities for success. So, the first thing I ask parents when I'm trying to do coaching with them, I say, what's something that happens every single day that you feel like you could use the device in this opportunity? It's different for every family because, they have different routines and different things happen. They have different stress levels depending if it's the morning or at night. And so it's just important to use things like bath time, bedtime, mealtime, getting dressed, all those things to start integrating language opportunities.
And then the last couple of slides are from actual presentations that have been done over the years where we've asked different participants to say, what are some of your favorite activities? So there are 4 slides here. Not everything is linked, so you might have to go in and actually Google it yourself, but it's just different ideas that people have on how to implement language all day long.
The last thing I want to say is there's so much here. So don't feel like you need to do all the things, right? Because I think when we say I'm going to click all these links, you're not going to click all these links because there's a lot of links. So pick 1 or 2 and just build from there, right? Pick the ones that really intrigued you. And same thing with the families that you work with. We need something that's easy to do and we feel like we're having success if we pick something that's achievable. So, don't feel like you need to do all the things. There's so much here. So definitely a resource that you can refer back to. And of course you can share this. The whole reason we made this was to help support clinicians, but also to help support parents, because especially during this time, parents are like, I don't know what to do. And especially for a lot of the students we work with, they thrive on routine and structure, and, helping coach parents through that, I think could be, really helpful. So sharing this course through that bit.ly link would be really great. And also, if you guys have any questions, now's the time. Now's the time to ask.
I see a Q&A. Rachel, where can we get the handout you made with your favorite app?
Go to that link. There's the link on this screen. You also can go to rachelmadel.com/app list. I think it's app list. But if you go back to that, Best Apps for Communication is a clickable link, and that will take you to my website. Can you show the QR code again? So if you go to that bit.ly link, that's our presentation. So that is any other questions?
Yeah, Sarah says, I think someone in the chat has been trying to ask a question.
Yes, I did see that. Gina, I saw your question. I'm sorry. We were frantically trying to get through everything. Is there something baseline you tell parents to encourage them to keep modeling even when they say that their child isn't paying attention to the AAC, either high tech or low tech? I know parents need that reinforcement, And when there's not interest yet from the child, some will stop modeling. Oh, this is hard. This happens a lot, right? Because when we're used to talking and, hearing a response or modeling and seeing something happen, but babies don't do that. So I think that's the biggest one, right? Is that babies, we talk to them way before they're able to talk back. I also have so many kids that I've worked with who hardly ever look, right? They're doing all types of other things and it appears as if they're not paying attention, but they absolutely are. And so I think that it's just, impressing upon the importance of what's going on over there, Chris.
Oh, I was just listening, but I was also texting and I was looking around, right?
Yeah.
But I was hearing everything you said, Rachel, but I wasn't making eye contact with you. And I was just trying to illustrate the point that just because a kid doesn't appear to be paying attention doesn't mean that they are not paying attention. You don't know that they're not actually taking in what you're showing. So I'm just reinforcing everything you just said, because I feel like we place that on kids like, well, they're not even paying attention. Well, you don't know that, the corner of their eye, they're listening, they're there with you. It's about joint engagement, not necessarily joint attention.
Yes. Even if they weren't paying attention, I still need to be doing my part to teach language. So I've said that to parents too, because sometimes they just they're like, it just feels like it's not working. No, it doesn't work overnight, but it does work over time. And so if we as communication partners can get into the habit and routine of modeling everything we're saying on a device, that ensures that children will eventually learn that language. If we don't do that, it won't happen. That's for sure.
It makes it easier for you. The more you practice, the better modeler you become. So even if you don't think they're paying attention, they're not getting it, just keep doing it. Just keep doing it.
Absolutely. Any other questions, you guys? I would love if anybody has any ideas or resources to share. This is a really great time to just pop it in the chat, things that you're like, oh my gosh, I love this. I just found this. I think it's a really amazing time to see our field come together and share all these resources. So many companies are giving away things for free or at low cost to help support, kids continuing to maintain their education. So I think it's really cool to see everything that everyone shared. It just really makes me so happy. Someone just asked, Rachel, are you planning to move your caseload to teletherapy? If so, what platform do you recommend? Yes. So I've already been doing some telepractice because you guys, driving in LA is not fun. So I do a lot of telepractice already. I use Zoom, but there's a lot of platforms out there. I actually just met with one of my good colleagues via video today, and she was showing me Blink, which I think was developed by speech language pathologists. And that has a ton of embedded resources. Zoom is free, so it's something that you can start right away. And you get a 45-minute call for free. And so it's just really easy because that's what Chris and I use for the podcast. But, there are a lot of options out there that I even need to explore for myself. But Zoom works because I can share a screen. I can connect my iPad to my computer so that I'm able to share the device. So if I'm trying to troubleshoot through, the grammar, keeps getting funky or wonky, I'm able to troubleshoot and show what I do on the device through my computer, just as long as I'm able to share my screen. Our podcasts are once a week. Yeah, we've had this podcast for 2 years now, and we have how many episodes, Chris? Over 100?
Well, yeah, well over 100. Yeah. And just so people know, if they're not aware, if this is the first time you're really seeing Rachel and I have only met once face-to-face, and it was after we've been doing the podcast for how many, a year and a half, almost 2 years? About 2 years is when, so we are models for how to, I think, I know I can have a relationship with somebody, a professional one, a friendship one, all this way because we only met once for dinner,
Which seems crazy because he's such a close friend of mine at this point. And it was the whole time we just kept it was almost surreal because we were like, how have we maintained such a great friendship without, having met? So it was really fun.
So you can too. Awesome, Lauren. That's so good. If you have questions, feel free to reach out. That is such a good thing.
Also, I want to mention, Sharon, Zoom has HIPAA compliance on a subscription. Really important. Yes, that is very important. Okay. Anything else, you guys? Thank you so much for joining us. It was such a wonderful thing come together. And I have to say, like, the buzz about this was really great on social media. Everyone was tagging me and posting things. And, we really love your support. And we would love for you guys to share the podcast just to get the word out about AAC. And, it's something that Chris and I obviously are very passionate about. And more people need to feel comfortable with it so that more kids are getting access to communication partners who, know how to model and how to support language development through a device.
All right, everybody, go capture your leprechauns if you're going to do that,
I'm definitely going to do it now. Chris, I need your help.
Thanks, Mei Ling.
Awesome. Good night, everybody.
Hi, I'm Mei Ling Chan.
And I'm Martin Sibley.
And we are the hosts of the Exceptional Leaders Podcast, where we spotlight high-profile topics and amazing people who are changing the worldview on disability.
Even though we are oceans apart, we are bringing people from all over the world together to discuss inclusion, advocacy, accessibility, and real-life journeys.
So listen to the Exceptional Leaders Podcast to hear the voices and stories from amazing changemakers and be inspired to make a real difference in the world.
You're listening to the Exceptional Podcast Network.